Good evening. After a two-day manhunt, 2 sleepless nights, law enforcement have apprehended Vance Bolter. That's 48 hours that law enforcement involved in a complex and dangerous manhunt.
Tim Walz. I don't know who thought he was a good idea. He was like a second iteration of Tim Kaine, but even worse. He turned out to be a path.
Imagine this. Tim Walz thinks he's playing 4D chess. Cool, calculated, untouchable. But Lindi Li? She didn't just flip the board. She sliked the queen, started juggling pawns, and walked off sipping tea like it was just another Tuesday. What we're watching isn't politics anymore. It's a roast, a takedown, and a Netflix-worthy plot twist rolled into one. Walz thought his secrets were locked tighter than Fort Knox, but Lindi just showed up with the keys, a flashlight, and a nuts popcorn for the whole country. Buckle up. This one's about to get wild.
These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us.
He was trafficking in lies and conspiracies. He said that he never supported a national abortion ban. We have in writing a screenshot from his website wherein he supported a national abortion ban. So he was just lying with.
Quick pause. If you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button. It helps way more than you think. Now, picture this. Walz cruising into 2025, rocking that perfectly ironed Midwestern nice vibe. Comfort food politics. Nothing spicy, nothing risky. Dependable. Or at least that's the branding. Enter Lindi Li. She didn't knock politely on the door of his polished image. She bulldozed through it with sarcasm sharp enough to slice cheddar. Suddenly, Walz's reputation went from casserole comfort to fridge leftovers. Mushy, questionable, and smelling worse the longer you leave it out.
Who could possibly think it would be a good idea to lie about being in Tiananmen Square when you were in Nebraska? I mean, come on, it's just so beyond the pale. And now he's thinking about running for president. Didn't he get the memo that the American people do not want a second coming of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? And Kamala is in California considering a run for governor. We do not want any more DEI woke, any of that. We just don't. We're done with the woke and trans insanity.
Walz's whole persona has been one big branding exercise. The calm, steady, practical leader, assuring you everything's fine while the house behind him burns down. He's the guy who'd smile, pat your shoulder, and say, "Don't worry, I've got this." As your Wi-Fi crashes, the fridge dies, and a raccoon torches your garage. Folksy reassurance on the surface, chaos underneath. That's the image Lindi Li just shredded. And now everyone can't stop staring at the mess.
What were they telling your mom, and how soon was it after the election? Like
a week or two. When it wasn't at that point, I was just asking questions. Like it wasn't even. I was like, what happened to the $2.5 billion we raised? Why did we spend it on Beyonce? Why did we spend 2.5? Why did we spend millions of dollars on Oprah? Like legitimate questions that needed to be answered. But the amount of hate I got for that was just overwhelming. And the final straw, the moment that I knew that I needed to leave, was actually around Christmas.
To really get this roast, you've got to understand the costume. Walz built his identity like an IKEA shelf, plain wood, functional, sturdy enough for family photos. But look too closely and it wobbles. Teacher turned politician, the friendly neighbor you'd trust to water your plants, the dad joke guy who also commands the National Guard. On paper, perfect. In practice, it's part of a board held together with mismatched screws you definitely overpaid for. Lindi Li was the one who pointed it out.
And then the biggest tell of the evening was when he told the moderators, well, I thought the rules stipulated, or something to the effect of the rules were saying that you weren't going to fact check. And you talked about own goals. That was an own goal. That said everything.
But
so
Lindi,
he was counting on the fact that no one was going to push back.
Are you frustrated then that Walz didn't make the argument that you're making to me right now?
I think he did a really good job tonight. And we had a live focus group.
She basically looked at Walz's record and said, "Nice mask. What's under it?" And that's when the receipts started flying. Walz branded himself as the steady hand on the wheel, but the car swerved more than a teenager learning stick shift. COVID policy? A masterclass in flip-flopping. Shut it down, open it up, lock it again, shrug when people get confused. Pragmatic? More like flipping a coin and pretending it was strategy. Crime? Even worse. He tried balancing reform with law and order tough talk, like dancing on two boats. Spoiler alert, you just fall in the water. Lindi didn't just highlight the contradictions, she added spice, exposing hypocrisy so glaring you can't unsee it once it's been pointed out.
On the border, he didn't deliver on the border wall that he promised. He blew up the border deal that we had, border as a campaign issue. So he scored really highly also when he mentioned Matthew 25 and how his faith guides and inspires his empathy for people, a quality that Trump and Vance so abundantly lack.
By now, Walz's carefully staged narrative looked less like authentic teacher next door and more like costume design. Lindi didn't poke holes, she turned the whole thing into Swiss cheese. It's like realizing your favorite indie band was manufactured in a boardroom to appeal to Target shopping suburban parents. Walz is the Target brand candidate. And with him stepping onto the national stage as Harris's VP pick, every little inconsistency is now a headline. Lindi didn't just present facts, she made them sting. And nothing in politics sticks harder than a sting that entertains.
It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget, Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easy.
Here's the danger. Addressing Lindi means stepping into her arena. Sarcasm is her sword, and Walz is already bleeding. But this isn't just about him. It's about the entire political machine that runs on image management. Walz just happens to be the latest mask slipping mid-costume change. Lindi's roast didn't just land, it cracked the dam. Now journalists, rivals, and internet critics are piling in, poking at every flaw. Once someone points out the foundation is cracked, everyone wants to see how deep it goes.
Feedback. I want to take you back to the very first answer that he gave. Let's just remind ourselves, he sort of stumbled through. Right now the crisis in the Middle East is, front and centre of the global news agenda, and we would expect maybe that someone who was running to be the vice president would have more confidence. Let's remind ourselves of what happened.
October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
So Walz's team has two bad choices. Double down on the cardigan charm or pretend none of this is happening. Spoiler, neither works. When Lindi roasts you, it's not a debate, it's a barbecue, and the smoke lingers. The go-to defense is always out of context. But at some point, even tripping over a garden hose looks bad if the footage keeps looping. The media split is predictable. Some outlets brush it off as just another spicy tweet. Others? They smell blood. And nothing sells in politics like blood. Suddenly, those little state-level compromises are national news, complete with true crime doc-level dramatic soundtracks.
What do you think happened when he gave that answer, Lindi?
Well, as I mentioned before, J.D. Vance went to Yale Law School. He is seasoned, and I said this in the previous interview. This is what he does. He's slick and he's sharp, but Walz is a fundamentally good guy. And our focus group of battleground voters, mind you, understand that. They perceive that this is a down-to-earth guy, salt-to-the-earth guy who wants the best for the American people versus Vance, who is backed by Peter Thiel and was a venture capitalist and is working for his billionaire crony.
Here's the problem. Walz isn't built for this level of scrutiny. At the state level, people forgive a mess or two if you smile and wave. But on the national stage, even your shoelaces get fact-checked. You can't coast on dad jokes and a calm tone. And Lindi just made sure the lens was crystal clear. To regular people, the humor writes itself. Walz, the man of the people, suddenly looks more like man of the script. And timing couldn't be worse. In this election cycle, voters want consistency now. not eventually.
Basically, I mean, I'm not on anyone's payroll. I'm not beholden to anyone. That's why I'm here telling the truth. I'm not here to gaslight anybody. This is just the truth.
What is the truth?
The truth is this is just an epic disaster. This is a $1 billion disaster. Actually, it was $1,018 million, I think, right? There were $20 million or $18 million in debt.
Right.
It's incredible.
Lindy just highlighted how Walz's consistency is about as sturdy as a paper straw in a hurricane. Social media took her takedown and turned it into a memes factory. Clips with captions like "Walz speedrun of hypocrisy" are everywhere. And once the internet decides you're a punchline, good luck grabbing the mic back. But here's why it matters. Politics runs on trust, real or manufactured. Walz's whole brand is steady, trustworthy neighbor. Lindy ripped the rug out, showing the whole thing was costume, not character. Once voters see the zipper on the mascot suit, there's no convincing them it's a real bear.
Millions of that. I have friends that I have to be accountable to and to explain what happened because I told them it was a margin of error race. I was promised, Jen O'Malley Dillon promised all of us that Harris would win. She even put videos out saying that Harris would win. I believed her. My donors believed her. And so they wrote massive checks. I feel like a lot of us were misled. And even on the night of election night, I looked somebody in the eye and I said, are we going to do this? Are we going to pull it off? She told me yes. And I asked somebody else, like, how are you feeling? He's like, we're going to win Iowa. And I was like,
that's the lethal part. Lindy makes it entertaining. People don't share boring critiques. They share sarcasm that makes them laugh and nod at the same time. That's how narratives spread now. Comedy dressed as accountability. And Walz's biggest problem? The attack didn't come from his opponents. It came from someone outside the game, which makes it feel authentic. Now, instead of looking like a safe VP pick, he looks shaky. And if you're the Harris campaign, that's a nightmare.
What's your take?
My take is the most neglected part of homeownership is the gutters. It's personal for me.
This is Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz making an appearance on the popular TikTok show Subway Takes.
Had problems with gutters before. You get your basement wet, you get ice dams, cause a lot of problems.
How often do you like looking at gutters?
I look quite often, surprisingly, because
Like
I kind
you're
of judge
inspecting.
it. I try not to be judgmental on people, but when I see a well-tended gutter, it says a lot about it.
And here's where it gets poetic. Walz's downfall isn't from a scandal, lawsuit, or corruption case. It's from exposure, contradictions unraveling under their own weight, death by 1,000 sarcastic cuts, each one amplified across social media until the carefully built image collapses. Walz built his brand on being authentic and steady. Lindy revealed it was manufactured and shaky. And once people see the cracks, they don't unsee them.